The second experimental observation is, see, when a metal piece was bombarded with light or photons, for every type of light, the metal was not ejecting electrons. Okay, so then they figured, okay, so what is the issue? Because a metal piece was there, light was being bombarded, but still electrons were not being ejected. So they started changing the light, meaning they see, if the light is being changed, the frequency of the light will change. So then they concluded that there is a minimum frequency, meaning the minimum energy required for the electrons to get out of the particular metal surface. That was work function, correct? Now, how much of energy the light source should give? What should be the frequency? So they come up with very important point, meaning this is like a prerequisite for the photoelectric effect to happen. So what we say is, if the frequency of the light is above the threshold frequency, only then photoelectric effect will happen. So this minimum frequency the light source should have, that is called as threshold frequency. Okay, now, so as the frequency of the light was increased and increased and increased, then the velocity of the electrons, the photoelectrons, increased. Okay, so the velocity. So then they came up with a graph, see, something like this. As the frequency increases, the velocity also increases. Okay, now see, if you look at it, there is an x-intercept, correct? See, that point is mu naught. So mu naught is what we call as threshold frequency. Okay, so for the photoelectric effect to happen, the frequency should be above threshold frequency. So that is the reason above mu naught, or whatever the frequency we have, the velocity will linearly increase as the frequency increases. Okay, so this minimum frequency, the threshold frequency, was one of the most important experimental observations. Because see, what happens is, suppose let's say for let's say a metal surface was there. Now you have to give blue light. Okay, so meaning threshold frequency is the frequency of blue light. Suppose let's say I give red light or yellow light or green light, then photoelectric effect will not at all happen. Okay, so this was one thing. And another thing with the frequency, another thing is, as the frequency increased, the kinetic energy, meaning if velocity increases, then even kinetic energy will increase. So this is again another important experimental observation. Okay, so two things. One is the threshold frequency, another is the frequency with velocity or frequency with the kinetic energy of the electrons. So this was noted as the second experimental observation.